Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here today. Good morning or good afternoon to all our attendees today. Thank you so much for attending today. We know that you're taking some time out of your day to attend this lunch webinar. This is our third webinar of our Lunch and Learn series here at Centaur. For those of you who don't recognise my voice, it's Christina here. From the Centaur team, from the Solutions Specialists team. Just so you know, we will be recording this webinar as well. So if you are, in the middle of checking in patients or, putting calls on hold, don't worry too much. The webinar will be recorded and given to you at the end of today's session. So just to get an idea of who's here today and what you guys are having for lunch, and just to make sure our chat box is also working, come and say hi in the chat and let us know what your lunch is, guys. So while we get more people logging on, let's hear from you guys for the time being. So I'll just open up our chat now. And yes, where are you joining from? Here we've got a poll so we can get an idea of who's joining us today and how many of you are here. If you can see the poll there, just chime in and select the state you're from.
Same host and panelists can't vote. Sorry guys, just Carolyn here. We seem to be having a couple of technical glitches
with our little poll.
With our little video and with the poll. So
just give us a moment.
We can carry on. Should we carry on without the poll?
Yeah.
Hang on, so
Oh, we're back, guys. A few things about our poll. There were a few states missing, so that was the little issues there. So yes, if you put other, thank you. Yes, so we've got a few from New South Wales. Hello, everybody. Queensland, WA, welcome. Everyone in South Australia, thank you, guys. And yes, New Zealand, hello there as well. Thank you, guys, for attending. So today's webinar, like our Lunch and Learn webinars, we've got today Carolyn Dean, who is master of websites, master of marketing, one of my favourite people at the moment. She's going to actually talk to us about the best practices for recall automation and really recall success. So what you see here are the 7 steps that she's going to go through. And I'm going to hand it over now to her to go on. But just so you know what is coming towards the end of the webinar, I will also be contributing some training insights into how Dental for Windows recall automation is going to work. We're also going to get your chance to pass on some questions to us. Know that as well, at the end of the webinar, we will give you a copy of the slides, a recording of the webinar, and an access group to Carolyn's access to Carolyn's Facebook group. That is, and we'll give you some information in a follow-up email on how to claim your CPD points today. And of course, don't forget to stay on board for some really exclusive offers towards the end. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Carolyn. Carolyn, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Christina. Hey guys, sorry you can't see our beautiful faces. The video isn't working for some reason today, so you'll just have to imagine that we're there with you today. So as Christina said, we will be answering questions at the end of the webinar. So normally I answer throughout the webinar, but because it's Christina and I today, we thought it would be better if we answered the questions together at the end. So same as usual, if you do have questions through the webinar, pop them into chat. Oh, I think we've got video. Aha, there you go. Hello, we are live. So put them into the chat box and we will answer at the end. Okay, and here we go. And the Facebook group, if you do want to log in, and I think Beck will share the link now. Again, as always, I can add additional information. Christina can add additional information to the Facebook group afterwards. So just join up. Okay, so into here. Technology is working like a dream today. Sorry, guys. What is going on? Sorry, there's a sneak preview of the Facebook group. Okay, all right. As I start all of the webinars, I just want to remind you about, the reason that we're doing this, and because you guys are taking time out of your lunch or morning, depending on where you're located. The reason that we're here, the reason we're adding these webinars into your schedules is because of the environment that's happening now in the dental industry. There's increased competition locally and overseas. There's the insurance companies, the corporates, and even if you are dialing in from a corporate, there are other corporates. So, it's just a snowball. Oversupply of dentists, you guys have got ever rising operating costs, and on top of this, your patients are becoming much more marketing savvy, and, they expect a lot more. And, reminding you guys that dentistry is a discretionary spend. So who am I? For those of you that this is the first webinar, Carolyn Dean, I am the Director of My Dental Marketing, and I've got over 25 years in marketing and sales, and 15 of those in the health, medical and dental area. And why do I spend my life on webinars and giving seminars and training events? Is because I really need you guys to understand this. I really need you to understand how to market your practice, how to stay ahead of your competition. The market is saturated at the moment, and so I believe that education can make a massive difference to your bottom line of your practice. And truthfully, I'm really tired of talking to practices just like yours that you've bought marketing that you don't need, you don't want, you don't understand, and you're losing money and opportunity. And I'm proud to say that I got awarded the industry award, the professional industry award last year, because of the education that I carry out for you guys. For those of you that haven't got the book, Fully Booked can be bought on most online places, so Amazon, etc., or from the My Dental Marketing website. And who are My Dental Marketing? We've been in business the last 10 years, 10 and a half years. This is what we do. Dental marketing is what we live and breathe by, day in, day out. Worked with over 700 dental practices. And as a business, we won the Marketing Award and the Dental Industry President's Award last year, which is the highest award that any industry or any supplier to the dental industry can be awarded. This is some of the team. Our photographer is male, so we're not all female. And why do we exist? We exist to help you guys become fully booked, to get ahead of your competition, get new patients, retain your existing patients, and get a good sense of control of your business. So how can we help? Basically 3 ways. Done for your marketing. So if you need help with your marketing, if you want us to carry out certain aspects of your marketing, we can do that. Consultancy, this is where we can help advise you on what you need to do with your practice, and then the education. So exactly like this, the seminars and the webinars. So now you know a little bit more about me. I would love to know a little bit more about you. So just love to know what your role is in the practice. So whether you're a practice owner, practice manager, whether you're a team member, whether you're here from the dental industry or others. So just checking with Beck, voting,
Yeah.
great.
Everyone's
Thank
voting
you.
now.
Okay, so keep going. I'll have a sip of water while I can help. Okay, finishing off. All right, brilliant. Thank you. Let's have a look at those results. Okay, that's great. Nice spread. That's really interesting, isn't it? So an even spread pretty much between practice owners, managers, and team members, but the practice managers win the prize today. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Okay. So before I start specifically talking about recalls, I actually want to talk about existing patient relationships and patient retention. So I'm sure that you know, but I just want to remind you that, your existing patient base is your most valuable asset, okay? Your most valuable marketing asset, but the most valuable asset in your entire dental practice. When you sell a practice, what you're selling goodwill, you're selling your patient base. So it's absolutely critical for you to look after and nurture relationships with your existing patients. And the cost to acquire a new patient into your practice is actually 5 to 10 times more the cost of retaining an existing patient. So it's absolutely critical that you think about your existing patients. When I talk to practices, the number one question that I get asked is, how do I get new patients in? How do I get new patients in? And actually the question that you should be asking is, how do I keep the existing patients in? Because at the end of the day, do you want them? Do you go to your competition? Absolutely not. You've spent a lot of time and money and effort getting those patients into your practice. You need to focus on keeping them in there. So critical, build the relationship with your existing practices and use the correct marketing techniques to do so. And the studies have shown that one of the main reasons that patients leave a practice is because you guys do not stay in touch. So regular communication with your existing patients is absolutely key. So there are multiple ways of being able to market to your existing patients. So there's recalls, email newsletters, social media promotions. So we're obviously focusing in today just on recalls. But the other areas, email newsletters, social media and promotions, I'm actually going to be talking about on the Dental for Windows Roadshow. So Christine will talk a little bit about this later, but basically we are traveling around all states, many locations. How many locations? 8 locations? 8 locations, starting next week. They're free events run by Dental for Windows. So if you do want to go, or if you want to meet us face to face, the whole team will be traveling. And if you want to hear more about the other ways of patient retention marketing, then that's a great event. So a poll, because I would love to hear your thoughts on how well you think you're communicating with your existing patient base. Who out there is doing really well? Nothing to improve on, who's doing okay, who's doing terribly, and who has no idea. So, beginning to vote?
Yeah, they're all beginning.
That's great. Okay. And it's lovely to see the people logging in now more and more onto the webinar. So welcome, new people.
Welcome.
Okay, yep, so closing down the poll. Let's have a look how everybody feels. Doing okay. Well done. Practice that's doing really well. That's great. Doing terribly and no idea. Okay, that's good to hear that a lot of you are doing okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so specifics on recalls. Okay, so this is the focus of today's webinar. So I'm going to step through the 7 steps that I believe are the most critical to have an effective recall system. Okay, so there's many elements, and I will, skip over at a quite high level, but Christina and I can talk more about any elements that you want to dig deeper in. Okay, so, step number one, why recalls? Why are we here spending, your lunchtime, our lunchtime talking about recalls? And the reality is it's because it's one of the most important systems that you have in your practice. It's the heartbeat of any successful practice. You need to have the right systems in place. You need to look after those existing patients. Absolutely critical. I talk to so many practices and they'll say, yeah, okay, I think recalls are going okay. But when we start digging in, the reality is they're typically not going as well as a practice thinks. The other perception is, we'll rebook people. I don't know whether you hear it now. Yeah, recalls going really well. We rebook people all of the time. Absolutely fantastic. And then when we start looking at the data doesn't have the same story. So, the reality is that most patients, and the stats show this, do not keep their appointments. Okay? So even if you book them in, they are not keeping them. So it's so easy for patients to start falling through this cracks. If it's left to just humans to keep control of your recalls, to keep control of your existing patients, truly, guys, you're going to fail. You need to have the right systems in place. If you don't have the right systems in place, if you do have patients that are falling down those gaps, then your practice is going to be struggling. So when we work with practices on an ongoing basis, this is one of the pieces of data that we look at. And if you're not keeping those patients in your practice, then you're going to be hemorrhaging money. So, this is really important. And that's why we dedicated an entire webinar to just this. So, we understand it's important. So, what do you need to do about it? So, truthfully, it starts with you guys. It starts with patient education. So the whole team needs to be educating patients on why they need to come back in, why they need to keep their regular checkups. The reality is, and we all know this, but do your patients know this, that they may be saving money by coming in for a regular appointment. It's a false economy. If they have issues that go undetected, then financially that's going to hurt. So if they keep up those regular checks, then they need, they're going to be better financially and better health. So you need to educate your patients. You need to go into the detail. You need to educate them and tell them why they need to come back. And truly, when you have that time with them, when they are back in your practice, when they are back in the chair, make the time, spend the time, add value to your patients, okay? They're taking time out of their day, taking time out of their wallet to come and see you. So make sure that when you see your patients, then they're having an exceptional patient experience. So the next step, and I know that many practices really focus on this, and it is absolutely critical, is pre-booking your next appointment, okay? So make sure as much as you can that you are pre-booking the appointment before your patient leaves, okay? It makes it much easier for the entire team if you're doing this up front. And I get it that lots of patients are out of the chair, they want to pay and get out of there as quickly as possible. But again, this comes back to education, it comes back to communication. You need to educate them. You need to say, look, it's okay, you haven't got your calendar, you haven't got your diary. Now, let's book in a time, and then when we send your automated recalls, you need to change. That's fine, but get them booked in, give them a date, okay? And then tell them that you're going to follow up so they know that there's going to be appointment reminders, okay? Set them up, tell them that they will hear from you, and that's okay. And you need to be consistent, okay? So if you have pre-booked, then you need to have it set up that they are getting consistent reminders, help them remember, help them come back to your practice. Okay, so just a reminder, if you do have questions, I am just going to go through the 7 steps without taking questions. So if you do have questions, please pop it into the chat. Rebecca's monitoring the chat, and then Christina and I can take questions at the end. Okay, so step 4. Okay, so multiple recall methods. So a problem that I see a lot is practices are just using one form of recall. And this is actually not the most effective way. We've got the data that backs this up. You really need to use multiple forms of reminders, okay? So multiple forms, multiple methods, and at regular intervals. And this is an area that Christina will explain about more. But the stats are fascinating. So if you are using one communication method, if you're only using print, you're only using SMS, you're going to look at 50% effectiveness. If you're not doing anything, guys, do the stats. You're not going to be effective at all. So one communication, 50% effectiveness. If you're using 3 different ways with different intervals, then you can get a recall effectiveness up to 85%. And I'm guessing that there's no practice out there that wouldn't like an 85% recall effectiveness. And when I say, across various forms of media, what am I talking about? I'm talking about SMS, talking about print, post, talking about email, and then of course phone calls. There are going to be people that will still need to be called, and that has a place as well. So 4 forms of recalls. So asking any questions. Okay, so how do we do all of this? We've heard that recalls are really important. We've heard that you need to train your team and start educating your patients. We've heard that 4 ways of communicating with your patients is going to give you the best success. But the reality is, how do you do this? Because everybody's busy. Yeah. How are you going to remember? The reality is, humans have errors. Humans get busy. Humans forget, and post-it notes stuck all over the place is not going to get patients back in. Okay, so there is amazing practice management software out there. Okay, whatever practice management software you are using, you need to make sure that you are using fully automated facilities to recall. This is what Christina is going to be talking about, and show you how to do this for Dental for Windows. Absolutely critical. So fully automated on your recalls, fully automated on your reminders. The reality is, if the systems are doing the work for you, then the humans in your practice can relax, forget about this, and actually know that this is in place, and then spend their time looking after your patients and giving them the great patient experience. So make sure that you use software automation. It means that you're not reliant on your team anymore. We've got practices that have gone from a manual system to a fully automated system, and the results are incredible. And they say to me, "Why didn't we do this sooner?" I can't believe, that we didn't do this sooner. So, if you are a doubter, talk to your peers, see what experience they have. But across the board, when I do my seminars, when I talk to practices about this, categorically, everybody comes back and says, if only we'd done fully automated recalls sooner. So, think about your staff. What can they now do if they're not running a manual recall system? And critical, guys. I know that you guys have got pieces of software, and I know that some of you guys don't really know how to use it to the max. So make sure that it's set up properly. Make sure that your team is being trained. Make sure that your team understand how important recalls are. So make sure that everybody's got the right training, everybody's got these systems set up, and Christina will go through and show you how that happens in Dental for Windows. Absolutely critical. So, step 6, the reality is, okay, if you have got all of these systems in place and you're sending out communication in various forms, you need to have a way for patients to book in. So if you're sending an SMS, if you're sending a email, if you're sending print mail, you need to allow them to book in at their own time, 24/7, okay? Because the reality is, people are busy. When we talked about this on our other webinars, people are busy. Even when you phone them, people don't want to take your call. You've got to have the facility to be able to offer them bookings when they are ready to book. And online booking now is a must-have. So when I talk to dental practices, once upon a time, we'd have a conversation about, well, should we be looking at online booking? Do you think it's a good idea? And, absolutely. If you haven't got online booking at the moment, then your competition has, truthfully. And if you've got patients that are wanting to book in when they want to book in, and that's not, believe me, between 8:30 and 5:30 when you guys are open, then you're going to start losing patients. So think about online booking, talk to your practice management software providers. You know, it's so easy nowadays. It's fully integrated into your practice management software, and truthfully, I don't think there is an excuse for you guys not to have it. So if you do have online booking, make sure that it is used in all of your communications. So specific links, or if you're doing print, you know, send them back to your website. Make sure that your website is up to date, is upgraded. You know, we've done a previous webinar on this. You know, it's responsive, so they can click easily and then click into online booking straight away. So absolutely critical, because if you're doing all the amazing recall process up until this point and there's no easy way of being able to book in, then you're going to fail again. And then the final step is monitoring. So whenever I talk about any forms of marketing, you need to monitor your recalls. So what I recommend with practices is you look at this and you pull the reports out on a quarterly basis. Okay, so you look at what your recall rates are, you look at your existing patient numbers, you look at your dormant patient numbers, okay? Check if there's a pattern, see if things are going up, see if things are going down. You know, you need to track this over time, because you should see a huge improvement in this if you start to track and measure. You need to have the systems in place, you need to have automation set up, and then you obviously need to keep your team trained, okay? And this is in terms of communication skills, so right back to the beginning, and also practice management software. So that was a really high-level view of the 7 steps on what I believe are the best steps for you to maximise your recall success. And before Christina starts, I would love to have a poll again to see how you feel about your recalls. You know, there's 7 steps there. What do you think your practice, or how do you think your practice is doing? Is the poll up? Cool, okay. You know, who here is doing really, really well? You've done all 7 steps and you can tick the box. Who's got some things that you can do better?
Maybe as well, I'm curious to know as well, maybe in the chat, what exactly do you want to improve about your recalls? So time, do you want to save more time? Do you want to save more money? I just want an idea as well where practices are feeling they're struggling with as well, so that maybe we can better follow up after this webinar as well, give you the right resources. So yeah, just pop in the chat, let us know what are the things particularly you want improved, to be specific.
Great. All good on the poll front? Okay, let's have a look and see what you guys think. Okay.
Doing okay.
So the vast majority doing okay. Terribly, no idea. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting to see. So those of you that are doing okay, where you think you feel that you need to improve the most on. Terribly, you know, what's your biggest pain, I guess, would be a great question. And, you know, we will have time at the end of this to take some more questions and opening up for more of a conversation. So just a reminder, and I think Beck will pop the link in. You know, if you do want to sign up for the Facebook group, just say Dental for Windows webinar, and we will let you in. Okay, so just remind you again how My Dental Marketing can help. We can help you with the done for you marketing. So whatever it is in your marketing that you need to improve on, we can help you. Marketing consulting, so if you need strategy, if you need assessments on where you are and what you need to improve on there, we can help. And then obviously the continuation of education through wonderful partners like Dental for Windows. So